Hi, Merry Christmas everyone. My name is Com and welcome back to Com Reviews. So I'm gonna ask you all a question. Who here likes Star Wars? Of course you do. I think almost everybody likes Star Wars at this point. I myself have been a big fan of Star Wars, aside from the sequels, but that's another story. But here's a question. How did you discover Star Wars? Most people discover Star Wars from the original trilogy, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Or maybe even from the prequels like Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. Or maybe you discover it because of this. Well, wherever you came from, we can all agree that Star Wars is one of the most successful franchises in the world, garnering games, toys, and of course, TV shows. Throughout the years, there have been many Star Wars TV shows, from Ewoks and Droids in 1985, to the Clone Wars cartoon in 2003 by Genndy Tartakovsky, the Clone Wars CG cartoon in 2008, Star Wars Rebels in 2014, and finally, lately, The Mandalorian, made by Jon Favreau in 2019, with plenty more coming soon. But today, I'm gonna talk about the 2008 Clone Wars CG cartoon. I'm giving some spoiler warning here, so if you haven't watched the series yet, I advise you to. It's really good. So, Star Wars The Clone Wars is a series made by George Lucas to fill in the gap between Episode 2 Attack of the Clones and Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. The series follows the two main characters from the movies, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, with a series original character named Ahsoka Tano acting as Anakin's apprentice. Alright, there's a lot of things to talk about in this show. So, the series has 7 seasons in total, with 133 episodes. There was a Clone Wars movie which combined 4 episodes, but we're not focusing on that now. The initial series ran from 2008 to 2014 before being cancelled. Season 6 was released on Netflix, but later removed by Disney. The show was then given a final 7th season in 2020 that premiered on Disney+. So anyway, let's get to the show. The first thing you should know is that this show is an anthology series, so the episodes aren't in order. If you were to watch them chronologically, there's a list online about which episode starts first. The first chronological episode is Cat and Mouse, which is in Season 2. It really only got stable around the middle of Season 3, which is really confusing, but that's when the series really got picked up to the point and George Lucas started funding it more. Okay, without further ado, let's move to Season 1. Season 1 is probably the black sheep of the series. Not a lot of people like the seasons, mostly because the animations were mostly unfinished, but it does have some good arcs and episodes in it. My favorite episode from this season is Rookies from Season 1, Episode 5, and my favorite arc would be the Malevolence arc. But I might make a video talking about each season overall, but for now, Season 1 is still the black sheep of the franchise. But it's not good, but it's not bad either. So, if you want to skip it, that's up to you. But for me, I wouldn't skip it because it's important. I mean, I won't skip any season, so yeah. So now, next is Season 2. Season 2, for me at least, it's really weak, but there is still some good arcs I would rewatch again and again. My favorite arc in this season being the Battle of Geonosis, the second Battle of Geonosis, mind you, not to be confused with the first Battle of Geonosis in Attack of the Clones. And the second would be the Mandalore arc, and third would be the Boba Fett arc. But there isn't a lot of fun things in this season. It's really the weakest, and but what I like in this season is the introduction of in the Mandalore arc would be the introduction of Obi-Wan's old like love interest. Yeah, love interest. Satine Kryze. If you don't know this, it's obviously an homage to Moulin Rouge. I recommend you watch these episodes. I'll show it here, and maybe, yeah. As for the rest of season 2, there isn't really much to talk about. There's the Xylo Beast arc, but this is when the animations were still not really in their best. So yeah, I would watch the Second Battle of Geonosis, Mandalore, and maybe the Boba Fett arc. Yeah, Boba Fett arc. But yeah, after those three, I suggest maybe you should just skip the rest of the season altogether. Alright, moving on, we have season 3. This season picks up with the first arc, The Cadets, where the original Domino Squad of clones in the Rookies episodes face their final exam before becoming full-on clone troopers. And it also connects to the second arc, the Battle of Camino. Next up is a bunch of political arc episodes. It's not bad, but it's not my taste either. Feel free to watch it if you want. It's actually pretty important if you're discussing Palpatine's plans, but they're not my favorite episodes overall. Next up is the Night Sisters arc. This is the arc that I believe transitioned the shifting tone and the differences between the earlier seasons and the newer seasons. In the Night Sisters arc, Ventress is betrayed by Dooku and returns to the planet Dathomir, home of the Night Sisters, a group of dark side Force users. The way they use the Force is through rituals rather than self-channeling like Jedi and Sith. And at the end of the arc, it's also revealed that Maul is still alive. Also, one more thing. This is the episode that also began the series of streamlined episodes. So from this point on, every episode is now in order. The next arc is the Mortis arc. This is my personal favorite arc, and it's been my number one arc of the Clone Wars for the longest time before Season 7's The Siege of Mandalore took this off. So, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka are called to the mysterious world of Mortis, a world strong in the Force, where during the day everything would be alive, and during the night everything would be dead. This is where dark and light are in balance. They encounter three mysterious Force-powered beings called the Father, the Son, and the Daughter. The Son being the embodiment of the dark side, the Daughter being the embodiment of the light, and the Father in between. Here, we get a display of Anakin's full potential, as well as visions of what is to come. The final arc of this season, it be the Citadel. This is my second favorite arc of the season. This is where Anakin, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and clones would go to a prison to rescue Tarkin and a Jedi Master named Even Peel. It's mostly overstretched to 4 episodes, and I really think it should have just been 3, but for me, it's fine for what it is, and the arc is still good. I was just thinking it's a bit overstretched, so make that of what you will. Alright, next up is Season 4. This is where the Clone Wars started getting darker with its tone. The first arc is the Mon Cala Civil War. To me, this arc is okay. It's not bad, it's not great, it's just alright. Next is the Gungan Naboo episode and the droid arcs. They're not that memorable, and I had to rewatch it to remember the plot. Luckily, they only span 3 episodes total, and we get back to the good stuff after that. The next arc is the Battle of Umbara. Oh my god, this is my most favorite arc of the season. In this arc, the Republic attacks the shadowy world of Umbara. And in the middle of the battle, Anakin is replaced by Pong Krell as leader of the 501st. But Pong Krell would later betray the clones, and they have to take him down before he retreats to the Separatists. This was the most brutal battle, almost as deadly as the second battle of Geonosis. This battle actually reminds me more of Vietnam than anything. Up next is the Zygerian slavery arc. This is where Anakin gets a lot darker as he's slowly approaching towards his more Vader personality. Especially if you know Anakin's history with slavery. And after another short Death Watch episode, we move on to the Obi-Wan conspiracy arc. This episode also pushed Anakin more to the dark side, and will be the beginning to festering his distrust in the Jedi Council, as you know what happens in Revenge of the Sith. In this arc, Obi-Wan faked his death so that he could investigate a conspiracy to kidnap the Chancellor. And after a bit of conspiracy, and you should probably see Anakin's reaction to seeing his master die, you will cry, believe me. Especially if you see the way he reacts when he finally does capture his killer and when he finally encounters and tries to kill him. Finally, it's the Ventress, Savage, and Maul arc. This arc is mainly just to showcase the return of Darth Maul, which I like, and at least we get a cool all-red lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan, Ventress, Maul, and Savage. That is pretty awesome. Next is Season 5. This was the last season to air on Cartoon Network since it was around the time George Lucas sold LucasArts to Disney. Season 5's first episode was good, but then they had 3 weak arcs to follow. These are the Droid arcs, the Youngling arc, and the Underanian Civil War arc. These arcs are okay, but they're a bit overstretched and to a bit not as grandiose as the previous stories and arcs we got in the previous seasons. And they're not really my favorite, but they do have some pretty good scenes too, and I do catch watching them once in a while, once again. But definitely if you're watching and binging the series, this arc would be the weakest of them all. But don't worry, the last 2 arcs definitely make up for the weak beginning. Next we move on to the Maul Death Watch arc. This is where Maul and Death Watch would team up to destroy and maybe capture Mandalore and as well as get revenge on Kenobi. No joke, this arc contains some of the coolest and saddest scenes in the entirety of Clone Wars until Season 7. This arc would also contain one of the greatest lightsaber duels until that season. Seriously, you should go watch it. And just to know which one it is, I'll just say it. It's the Savage Maul versus Sidious duel. This is one of the best lightsaber duels in animation to date. And finally, of Season 5, we have the last Ahsoka arc until Season 7. After being framed for a crime and later saved by Anakin, Ahsoka leaves the Jedi Order. And this is also where we get glimpses of how the war had corrupted the Jedi Order and Jedi Council. I couldn't decide which of these 2 arcs I like the most, so we'll just count them both as even. Okay, next up, Season 6. These were dubbed The Lost Mission and was first released on Netflix after the cancellation of the series on Cartoon Network. There are 4 arcs in this season, with the first arc being the Inhibitor Chip arc. This is where we get the first instance of Order 66 in the series, and as well as the cause of it. It's my most favorite arc of this season next to the Rush Clovis arc. This also shows Palpatine beginning to gain control of everything in the Republic. Remember this line?
He has control of the Senate and the courts. He's too dangerous to be left alive.
Well, in this arc, we actually get to see it being processed as Palpatine got the Senate to increase his emergency powers and allow him to take control of the banks. And next up is the Mace and Jar Jar arc. It has a decent action and decent story overall. It's alright, and plus it's a bit funny seeing the most serious Jedi team up with a complete buffoon. And the final arc of the series, until it got revived, is the Yoda arc. This is where Yoda gets vision of the future, and with the help of Qui-Gon Jinn, he travels to Dagobah, his future home, of Force Nexus, and finally to Morban, or as you know in Star Wars The Old Republic, Korriban, homeworld of the Sith. It's definitely a Mortis 2.0 arc, and it also contains the only other time Yoda and Sidious would clash lightsabers. And finally, we have Season 7. This is the final season of the Clone Wars, and it premiered on Disney+. There are 3 arcs in the season, with the first being the Bad Batch arc. Who are the Bad Batch? I'll let Cody explain.
Experimental Unit Clone Force 99. The defective clones with desirable mutations.
In this arc, Echo makes a return and later joins the Bad Batch in the end. It's an okay arc to me, and I think it's on par with many of the earlier arcs, and it's not great, but it's still good. And I would rewatch it again and again. Next up is the Martha Sisters arc. This is definitely one of the weakest arc in the season, and maybe the whole series if I don't get flack for it. There isn't much to talk here except for Maul, Bo-Katan, the Pikes, and yeah, I can't really find a lot to talk about in this arc, but let's just skip it. And finally, we get to my favorite arc of the series, the Siege of Mandalore arc. These last four episodes are the only episodes of the Clone Wars to coincide with Revenge of the Sith. And if you've watched that movie, you know what happens. So you're always on the edge of your seat, waiting for the inevitable to happen. And when it does finally happen, it's great. The action, the visuals, the music, it's very tense, and you're wondering if the heroes are going to escape. It's one of the best arcs of the season, and that's why it's one of my number one most favorite arc in the Clone Wars. I'm not gonna spoil a lot of this arc, but you should watch it. Alright, so that's my review of Star Wars The Clone Wars. An amazing series that definitely stands out on its own. So I'd like to thank you all for watching, and Merry Christmas to you all. Bye.